Welcome back to the summit. Still with us, David Goldman, Bradley Bowman, and Dan Perry. Thank you, gentlemen, so very much for staying with us. We're also staying on topic, of course, but before we get back to our conversation, China's top leaders appear apathetic at times and not really engaging in full with back and forth here. So what is China trying to achieve exactly with this nobody's home type of an interaction, and why is it resorting to conspiracy theories? Let's take a listen and pick it up from there.
Since the train derailing in the US, which caused a chemical spill, we've seen a large number of Americans questioning why the US government and media outlets have downplayed the incident. On many occasions, the relevant US officials only referred to the balloons as a challenge they are faced with, but did not even mention such a serious accident. Many Americans are leaving messages on social media platforms asking what the US government is hiding. I believe that the people have sharp eyes. They have already seen through the US government's tricks to overreact on the accident of the civilian airship and make use of it to make a fuss. Everybody is clear who is playing the trick of attention deflection.
Yeah, so we've just heard the government spokesperson engaging in social media conspiracy theories here. But what is China's game plan? Another quick fire round, 30 seconds each, and we take it out from there. Bradley Bowman, please take the lead.
Thanks. The Chinese Communist Party's game plan, I think, is clear. They want to consolidate authoritarian control of the party within China. They are going to continue their crimes against humanity against the Uyghurs. They're going to build the Chinese economy. They're going to continue to conduct the largest and most ambitious military modernization effort in history's People's Republic of China. They're going to try to push countries like the United States out of the South China Sea. They're going to try to sow discord and division within democracies like the United States, and they're going to prepare for a conflict in the Taiwan Strait.
Well, sounds like a full agenda, full plate there. Dan Perry, your thoughts?
I think it's fair to say that China's goal is to achieve global primacy, displacing the U.S. and the West, maybe by the middle of the century. And, by size of economy, it's not inconceivable. They might achieve something close to that. Also, not necessarily true that they will. But, more interesting, I think, more of a challenge where we can be more skeptical is whether they can ever really project innovation as opposed to just industry replication and theft, or whether they can project soft power, the soft power of a true superpower, which requires cultural affinity of the sort that is not their forte, nor something they have necessarily desired.
David Goldman?
China's objective for years, starting with the Belt and Road Initiative, has been to dominate the economic development of the several billion people in the world who have a chance to go from earning $2 a day to $10 or $20 a day. That's the one thing they've shown themselves to be very good at. And their homegrown broadband technology is the tip of the spear. That's been the basis for a doubling of China's exports to the global South, Southeast Asia in particular, just in the past 3 years, and a massive increase in economic dependency on Chinese goods.
So gentlemen, please feel free to interact. Who's gaining from this recent spat? India, and speaking to that point, why isn't much of Asia too bothered, let's put it that way, about the balloon saga? Dan?
I have to say, I think who's gaining is whoever has an interest in not seeing the U.S. and China collaborate and continue the dynamic of globalization that we've seen over the past 4 decades. And I have to say, I think in the background here, that is a very interesting aspect of the story. One of the gifts of Vladimir Putin in invading Ukraine has been to really put a damper on people's willingness to be dependent on other countries, potentially bad faith players, the way that Western Europe has been dependent hitherto on Russian natural gas. So China's ambition to supplant the West, what makes it not ridiculous is its economic growth of recent decades. And that growth has been predicated on China becoming the factory of the world, factory of the U.S. Europe trades with China close to $1 trillion. The U.S. Imports from China about $500 billion. It's not small. And I'm not so sure that the U.S. will be willing to continue that kind of semi-dependency. Thankfully for the U.S., it's less strategic than dependence on energy and possible to reverse. And also, it's different than it would be if China controlled Taiwan, because that would create a hyper-dependency on a China which controls Taiwan in the realm of semiconductors. So that's the globalization story is a big part of the background here.
David Goldman,
China.
Please, Mr. Goldman, David Goldman,
Xi Jinping's key objective is the peaceful reunification of China and Taiwan, that is, to take over Taiwan without a war. The Chinese have never fought for anything they can get without fighting for it. They're patient. As long as Taiwan does not make a move towards sovereignty, I do not believe China will invade. If China does make a move towards sovereignty, then I think it's unquestionable that China will use military action. Might not be an invasion, more likely a blockade, but something that will put it into the likelihood of military conflict with the United States. Given the fact that we don't have the means to defeat China on its coast, 14,000 miles away from us, the right thing to do is to maintain the status quo, pursue a war avoidance strategy while we build up our military technology to create the kind of military we need for the 21st century, which we don't have now.
Bradley.
May I jump in here?
Please.
Yeah, thank you. No, Mr. Goldman perhaps inadvertently used the term reunite. I think we should be very careful with our words. That is not accurate. The People's Republic of China has never controlled Taiwan. So using the Beijing talking point of reuniting is playing right into their narrative. So I think we should start with that. Let's remind ourselves.
I think that's complete nonsense.
The People's Republic of China controlled Taiwan when?
No, but pre-communist China.
China has.
I said
the People's Republic of China is only one.
They believe they're the inheritors of the Chinese,
Tell me the year.
The idea
when the People's Republic
China
of China
has had an
Taiwan.
emperor for 5,000 years. Xi Jinping is simply another
Gentlemen, we really want to hear all of you.
China is merely another manifestation of China's imperial system. The Communist Party is the old Mandarin class in Mao jackets. I assure you, no leader in China, nationalist, communist, fascist, democrat, whatever, could survive the loss of Taiwan, because the national humiliation of China in the 1890s, when Japan seized it from the Qin dynasty, is something Chinese still remember. They have very long memories, and that's not something the mainland or any mainland government will tolerate. It has nothing to do with communism.
Mr. Goldman, when did the People's Republic of China begin to exist? What year?
China has existed since the Qin
No, I asked you
dynasty,
the
about
People's Republic of China. I
300
didn't ask you
BCE.
China. I asked you the People's Republic of China. What year?
That's an irrelevant question, because this is a Chinese national issue, not an ideological issue.
There you go.
And to
That's
understand
straight out of Beijing.
differently
Straight out of Beijing.
is, excuse me, there's
please.
nothing to do with Beijing or the Communist Party. Any Chinese you talk to will explain that to you. China's century of humiliation is something that every Chinese feels. And whether it's communist or some other government, you're not going to get a separation of Taiwan without a military.
I'd love to hear the logic. So let's suppose he had said it's only existed for 70-some years. Okay, so what would be the conclusion?
The point is that the status quo is the current situation where Taiwan does not declare independence, right? And we try to resolve this conflict peacefully. That's the position of the United States. It's codified in the 1979 Taiwan Relations Act, and that this should be resolved peacefully. Beijing are the ones that are preparing to use armed force to coerce or conquer Taiwan. The People's Republic of China has never
and perhaps the way we're concluding this debate hints us at what the balloon saga is telling us about the future of U.S.-China relations. Bradley Bowman, David Goldman, and Dan Perry, thank you for a fascinating conversation. Thank you. 2 minutes, and we're back.